Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Austin, and I'm the Director of Alumni and Community Relations at Colby-Sawyer. It's great to have so many of you online with us this evening for our Alumni Speaker Series presentation. This Alumni Speaker Series has been a really great program for the college to highlight the accomplishments and diverse career paths of our alumni. And we hope that these speaker series really inspire our current students and fellow alumni and remind all of us of the possibilities that exist with a Colby-Sawyer degree. Tonight's speaker series session features Jen LaChance Taylor and Ben Taylor. Jen received her bachelor's degree in nursing from the college in 2010 and currently works as a nurse practitioner. Ben received his degree in environmental studies in 2009 and currently works as a professional tennis instructor. In addition to their professional careers, the couple own and operate Bark and Bray Animal Sanctuary in Wilmot, New Hampshire. I'm also pleased to introduce my colleague, Dr. Iris Fisher McMorrow, who will be moderating today's session with Jen and Ben. Iris was a Colby-Sawyer faculty member from 2012 to 2016 and then rejoined us again in 2022. She is passionate about teaching science, including courses in anatomy and physiology, toxicology, and animal physiology. Iris is also a health professions advisor for Colby-Sawyer students who are interested in medical, veterinary, dental, and physician assistant schools. In addition, she is a licensed veterinarian in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont, which makes her a wonderful and obvious choice to moderate today's session. So before I turn things over to our speakers, just a couple of reminders. We are using the Zoom meeting format for tonight's presentation. And so that means that your cameras and mics are allowed to be on. I see most of you have your mics off right now. We ask you to keep your mics off just during the moderated conversation so that we can avoid interruptions. If you have questions during the conversation, go ahead and put those into the chat function, and we'll moderate those and get to those at the end. We'll also leave some time at the end for you folks to participate and ask your questions live to Jen and Ben. You may have noticed I am recording today's session. We will share that recording on our website for others to see, and we'll share that recording with you in the coming days as we have that ready. So thanks again for spending some time with us this evening. I know you'll enjoy tonight's conversation, and without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Iris. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And Jen and Ben, thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm really excited to talk to you about what you're doing in your lives and a little bit about you. And I think I'll start with something that I think we're all interested in, which is, how did you come to Colby-Sawyer? What drew you to Colby-Sawyer originally?
Oh, you want to go first?
I'll break the ice.
There you go.
Well, I knew I wanted to be a nursing major, and Colby-Sawyer had an excellent nursing program. And then in addition, I wanted to play tennis, and I wanted to have both things. So I really focused my search on what college would allow me to have both things. And then I wound up here. So
For me, I was actually interested in the UNH program of agriculture and everything like that. And I didn't think I was going to be able to play college tennis. And then one of the college coach at the time, Rick Estes, came and watched a match and said, "Hey, you might want to check out this college, you know, just because." And I love the setting. There was a lot less people, and that fit me much better.
That's amazing. And it's interesting because environmental science was still a part of your life. And I was actually going to ask next, was agriculture in both of your backgrounds? Was that, I mean, you came as a nursing major, Jen. So, and tell me a little bit about you and farming in the past, and we'll get into all the exciting things you're doing at the sanctuary. But was farming a part of your lives?
So for me, my grandparents had a llama farm. They actually had a bed and breakfast llama farm that I would go down and work on in the summertime and things like that. I was in FFA, which is Future Farmers of America, at my high school and things like that. And so for me, I always really liked working with animals. I was in animal management, vet tech, things like that. Didn't think I was actually going to get into like the environmental studies. I was focused more on agriculture. But yeah, it's been a part of my life. Jen's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Special one. Yeah, no, I had no farm animals. My parents were very against that. They might be on here tonight somewhere. But they basically had we had dogs and cats, but I always wanted farm animals, never was allowed to have them. And then, I didn't really do anything with farm animals through college, but once we graduated and we bought our house in Wilmette, it had a barn, and Ben was like, hey, we should do something with this. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't think so. But he talked me into it. And donkeys are basically the gateway animal that
Wow.
to all of
Okay.
this. So we got 2 mini donkeys, and I just fell in love with them. And then the story kind of evolved from there. So
That's wonderful. And so, we will talk a little bit more about Colby-Sawyer as well as the farming experience, but given we're here and you said donkeys, so I'm in. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, how the name came, but also the important distinction that you are currently running an animal sanctuary. It's not an animal rescue. So if we could talk a little bit about both of those things, it would be really interesting to me.
So you want to go or me? Me? Okay. Well, so it all kind of happened gradually. So we got mini donkeys, and we should really specify that these donkeys we got from Jen's friends, and so they're actually not really rescues. They had been worked with people. They respond well to people and everything like that. Jen fell in love with them. We ended up getting a pig, and he took a little bit more. He was very overweight for his age and everything like that, and so we got him feeling a little bit better, and ended up getting a horse that really needed a lot of love and care and whatnot, and because she had been neglected for so long. And then once we got her and we saw her kind of recovery and her ability to kind of forgive humans, essentially, even though that they had really done bad stuff to her, that's when we decided, we should really kind of turn this into a nonprofit. And the difference between a sanctuary and a rescue. So a rescue brings in animals. It can be for a whole bunch of different reasons. A sanctuary, we tried to provide a life for them for the rest of their lives. And so a lot of rescues, they'll get them, rehabilitate them, and then send them off to proper farms, many of which have to go through an application process so that they know the animal's going to a good thing and a good place. We decided very early on that we wouldn't feel comfortable with that. We wouldn't want to have to check up on all these different animals and make sure they're doing well and everything. We wanted to provide them with that kind of home. And so our job is to take animals from rescues and essentially be able, let the rescue be able to take in more animals after we kind of take them.
There's a big problem with rescues being overpopulated. They don't have a high turnover rate, so they struggle to adopt animals out to appropriate homes. So therefore we can be part of that solution, especially animals that are hard to place, like the ones that we adopt are ones that people don't want to adopt for any reason. Like one horse, she was unable to be touched for a while. One pig was really overweight and couldn't really move. And one cow is like 2,000 pounds and costs a ton to feed. So no one wanted to adopt her. So we kind of take the unwanteds and help in that way.
And tell me who's on the farm right now. So generally speaking.
So for animals, we have 10. We have 2 miniature donkeys, 2 miniature horses, 1 potbelly pig, 2 goats, and 3 different cow species. We have a Holstein, which is the 2,000-pound cow. We have a mini Highland cross, who's about probably 800 pounds, and then a yak, who's the smallest of the bunch of the cows. So We
Wow.
call them the misfit cow herd because they're all very different, but they've created this lovely little unique cow herd family.
That is amazing. And the connection to the name, how did that happen? Because it's a beautiful name.
Bark and brag.
Yeah.
Well, originally we thought we might be able to do more with the dogs.
Yeah.
There's a little bit because we live on the farm where the nonprofit is. There's a little bit kind of a gray area of your animals versus animals that are part of the nonprofit. And after we kind of realized that, we decided that we wanted our dogs to be our dogs and not, be part necessarily of the nonprofit. But we had already picked the name, so
Well,
it sounded really
It's a beautiful name. It's lovely. Yeah.
well, the name just comes from the noises you hear
Of
coming out
course.
of the sanctuary. There's barks and brays, and that's mainly what you hear going on here.
I think that's beautiful. Jen, full disclosure, I teach a whole bunch of nursing students because of anatomy and physiology. And I know that your curriculum was fantastic and also very stressful. There is a lot that you had to do in school, not to mention what you have had to do after college. So I would love to hear a little bit about what you might share about this, a work-life balance, really for both of you, right? But I think I'm homing in on Jen here because of my experience with nursing. I know what it's like out there. So how are you balancing all of this? Or if you have any advice for any of us out there, this is very exciting work, but you have a very robust life too. Yeah.
Yeah, the work-life balance is key. I went back to school after Colby-Sawyer twice, and the second time was to get my psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner certification. And that's so I could work from home mostly, and so have that, better work-life balance where I'm not wasting an hour plus in the car on the commute. I could have a more flexible schedule. My lunch breaks, I get to go out and check on everyone and feed everyone lunch, which is lovely. Like, how else could I do that? So my current role allows me to really have a great work-life balance. I could turn off at the end of the day and just do everything I want to do with the animals. So.
And I'll turn it to you too, Ben. Ben, you are working as a tennis coach as well. So do you have any words of wisdom because having a farm like this with animals with various needs, and some of them very high needs, that is intense. So anything that you can share about the balance in your life right now?
I mean, so when we decided, we had animals for what, 6-7 years or something like that before we decided to actually turn it into a nonprofit to try to really make it sustainable and grow. And when we made that kind of final decision, it was mainly that I would take on more of a seasonal role. And so, spring, summer, and fall, I do a lot more teaching and things like that. But my main focus is the farm.
Got it.
I mean, yeah, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, it's farm kind of before everything else.
It's farm before everything else.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair. But this really does seem like a beautiful partnership. It's pretty exciting. We did have some people who are on who were interested to find out, does the farm take volunteers? Do you have volunteers on the farm?
Yes, we do. People can volunteer in many ways. They could physically do animal care. We have some remote volunteers who help with administrative things. So yes, we have volunteers, and we also like doing volunteer days. Like, we've done a day with the students at the college, or if a family just wants to donate a couple hours on a weekend for a project, we've done that too. So it's exciting to have all these people get involved.
Great. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. But so let's get to what you were saying, Ben, with the farm first. So share a little bit more about that and sort of what your vision is, for the farm and how you're currently working on that.
I mean, well, so when we first started this whole thing, the ideal was that we were going to try to make sure it was sustainable. A lot of people don't realize how much time, how much effort, how much money, how much everything it all takes.
Sure.
And so we wanted to make sure that we did things that were recurring, and every single year we could kind of build on that. And then also just go slow. I mean, last year we actually had to turn away, I don't know how many animals.
It was
It
100.
was, yeah, I mean, it
Oh,
was a lot of animals. And everybody thinks, oh, you have 25 acres. That's, that's plenty of acreage. And most of our acreage is wooded. We only have about 6 to 7 acres that are actually cleared that we just did within the last couple of years. I mean, in our little cow herd, we probably have 3 acres that are for them, for grazing and things like that. And everybody's like, oh, you could do more. And you're like, actually, I mean, cows, they eat a lot. If you do rotational grazing and proper pasture management and things like that, you can't have more. And so we really tried to keep that in mind as we're expanding. And so we do have, kind of a 5-year plan and then plus, but it's all determined on how much community support we have, how much funds we bring in, is this going to be sustainable in the long run, how many volunteers we have. And so there's a lot of different tiers to it.
wow, that's exciting. And so what do you think, with the number of animals you have right now, what is the ideal number of people that you need to count on regularly for volunteers? How big are you, I guess, was one question as well.
Well, I was gonna say, well, Ben and I do a lot of the work.
Of course.
But we have at least 5 dedicated animal care volunteers. So at least 2 days a week, we have people come and help, cleaning and
Mhm.
doing animal care in that way. It would be great to have more.
I bet.
There's some town restrictions we've had to navigate with the sanctuary, so we are limited on like number of cars and things like that. So we've been very mindful of just like keeping within that range, which is one kind of restriction upon us, which is manageable, totally manageable. But I'd say, we are at max capacity for large animals right now with just the space that we have. We have hopes for maybe adding small animals, something to do with rabbits in the future if we can have a good year this year. Ben wants chickens. He's been singing that tune for a while, but I'm not in. I don't. They're hard.
You're not a chicken person?
No, they're really hard to keep alive. And
I know. Well, especially in New Hampshire and in Vermont, right?
Yes.
It's not easy in New Hampshire or Vermont. I live in Vermont, which is why I mentioned that. But yeah, everybody's getting kind of decimated out there. So
yeah, it's the least favorite part of chickens. So
I know. Well, and let me ask you, what do you think are you've mentioned some of these already, but what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you face at the sanctuary?
I mean, winter.
Yeah.
That's always extremely difficult. Everybody's like, oh, it must be so nice, in the winter. Oh, you see all the snow, the landscape is nice. And that's very true. The landscape is very, very nice. The animals, except for the Highlander, it's fine. The yak, it deals with, but donkeys, they're desert animals. Horses are kind of okay with it, but the pig is a more tropical climate animal. Their personality changes.
He's miserable.
100%.
Is he real? So winter is just,
yeah, I mean, it's much, the animal care aspect becomes much more difficult in the wintertime. I mean, and manure management and things like that becomes a lot more difficult in the wintertime. And so it's just, it's a matter of every year you kind of learn a little bit and you hope to keep it, positive.
Yep. So
and another challenge.
Yeah, tell me.
others are, outside of just the animal care, is just, fundraising and becoming sustainable. We're not experts in nonprofit management, but we've learned a ton. And just really trying to fundraise and learning which events of ours work, what works, what doesn't work, how can we connect with people in the community and make those connections. That's all part of the learning process, just to become more sustainable, because we have dreams to make programs to help these 100 animals that we got called about, but we can't do that until we have some sustainability. So
I think it's the start small, grow is exactly what you want to do. I mean, I can't imagine suddenly. I mean, it's hard on our hearts, right, to say no, but I think having that discipline to start small and then gradually grow is important, and fundraising is hard. Actually, we have a question from somebody. Can the public come out and see your animals?
Yeah, so they certainly can. Our website, bikeandbrayfarm.org, you can, because we have the restrictions on our town and things, there are certain days and times of the week and certain number of cars that you can have, and so you can go onto our website and book a time to visit. We also do farm experiences, so you could come, you could take a donkey trek, you could learn to rope, you could do a whole bunch of, you could have, do we call it punch in the pasture?
pasture paradise.
Pasture paradise.
Yeah, where you can actually interact with all the animals and things like that. But yeah, a lot of what we try to do is educations, because we have such a vast number of different animals. Whenever somebody tries to come, we try to do a little bit of education just on the well-being of the animal, what it takes to raise one of these, and things like that.
That is fantastic. And we have a few questions popping up. This is fun. So there was a question about keeping chickens alive. Are we worried about the avian flu or other things? And I think Jen, you and I might have been talking about wildlife as one of the base issues, right? So in this area, the coyotes, the foxes, and maybe share anything else that you were concerned about when it comes to chickens.
I mean, so we originally had chickens when we were not like an actual farm. And this was before we had donkeys or anything like that. We had chickens because the previous owner had a coop, and we were like, oh, terrific, just throw them in there. Excellent. And they all ended up getting killed by ermines.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
they're
of
like little
course,
tiny
of
ferrets, like
course.
wild ferrets, essentially. Yeah, and they can get through a lot of different things. And so they were like, okay, next time you do it, you have to kind of dig down and put wire in between, the ground and them. And so we haven't really had a chance to build a proper area for the chickens.
Yes, yes.
The avian flu is, of course, a concern, but
Right.
thankfully, with us not having any poultry, I know it can still transmit to other animals, but less likely so. But I know that for rescues in Massachusetts and places like that where there have been cases, it's been a pretty big deal and scary and
Very big deal.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's these things, disease outbreaks, especially zoonotic, the ones that are contagious to humans are potentially at least, are scary things to have to deal with on a farm for sure. There was a question about whether or not you have considered partnering with any veterinary colleges. In New England, I think there are actually only a few. I don't know that people know that. We really don't have, we have a lot of veterinary technology programs in New England, which is great if you want to become a veterinary technician, but it's relatively hard for folks who live in New Hampshire, or Vermont, or Maine, to secure spots in veterinary colleges, because there are a few of them. Tufts is the closest, and then we have Cornell and UPenn. But I do think that there is an opportunity to collaborate with veterinarians, whether it's at colleges, academics, veterinary technology schools. Do you have any of those kinds of collaborations?
Our current vet is wonderful, and she sometimes has students and always loves bringing them over. And one of our volunteers actually is an aspiring vet student, so that's
Nice.
yeah, so that's great too. But beyond that, we haven't gotten much into that. We're hopeful maybe we can make an internship with Colby-Sawyer, having the pre-vet major. So we're looking into that. Yeah.
I'm in. I can already send a whole bunch of people your way. They'd be so excited. You have no idea. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, but that's about it.
Yep. Yep. Well, I think that there are a lot of wonderful collaborations that we could have at Colby-Sawyer. The students would be really excited to learn more about what you're doing. We do have a question about how you raise funds. So do you want to share a little bit about your fundraising or some of the resources that are out there? Your website's been shared, which is great. But what is your primary way to raise funds?
I mean, so essentially we have what you call sponsorships, where a lot of those people are people who have visited the farm before and they get kind of attached to an animal or something like that. And then they do a monthly donation or something like that to our animals. Events is a big thing. We generally do at least 2 to 3 big events. We do a pickleball tournament, tennis tournament, in the summertime and things. And then we have several small events. We actually have a birdhouse painting coming up this Saturday at the WCA. And then several small community events.
Great.
What is the hosting the bandstand in Wilmot? We host a bandstand event and things like that. Donkey treks and certain experiences, they bring in some money, and then just one-time donations. A lot of those which we get November, December, when people are trying to write off their taxes and things like that. We just ask for donations and things during that time.
Yeah, we're 100% donation run. So we don't receive any grants, and with the current landscape, it looks to be even more challenging. But it's very challenging to obtain grants, and those things usually are not very sustainable. It might just be for like a one-time project or one-time thing, which is something we of course will look into, but otherwise we found that it's not really going to provide that sustainability that you need. So we've really focused on the fundraising aspect, and social media is a big part of that as well.
Yes, and we did share, I believe it's shared in the notes, the Instagram site. So Instagram is your primary social media, correct? That
And
you use to
Facebook.
share- and Facebook. Okay, great. So I think that's wonderful. I, for one, will be friending you soon. So or liking you, whatever we do on the commercial pages, right? Or the business pages. But that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. You mentioned, I'd love to go back to tennis a little bit, because we were just talking about this before everybody came on, but you tell us about last week. What just happened last week?
Yes.
So we went on spring break with the men's and women's tennis team. We left one volunteer in charge at the sanctuary. No, so there was she did great. She was the main volunteer when we were gone, and she did a wonderful job taking care of everyone. But we went with the tennis teams down to Orlando, and both teams had matches, and it was a great time. So
Men won 5-3. Shout out.
ladies did well. I don't remember I know we got Sky, we got some players that came on. So
nice.
Yeah, it's a good week. But we've really stayed involved with Colby-Sawyer through tennis. I coached for 7 years after I graduated, and now I'm kind of per diem coaching. And you've coached for how long?
Well, I mean, I've always just helped out whenever I can. I had a full-time job before we started this whole thing. So it was just whenever I could. But luckily, ever since we've started this, I've been able to be more involved, specifically with the men's team, but also with the women's team some, and it's been fantastic.
That is fantastic. I have the wonderful pleasure of having one of the women's tennis folks in one of my classes, and Academically, she is just killing it, and she is an incredible tennis player, and it's just wonderful to see her connect. She was actually a transfer student, and yeah, the tennis team is just amazing, just amazing. So, and clearly you've had a connection. And was tennis what brought the two of you together?
Yes.
It was actually spring break that brought us together because we got the men's and women's team got stranded down in Florida. And we rode a Greyhound bus back home next to each other. And then they went on strike halfway through. So it took us a long time to get home,
Yeah.
but we got to know each other very well
Yep.
that trip. So
Oh my goodness, how long did it take to get home?
20 plus hours.
Of course you got
We
to
had
know each
sleeping
other well.
stations and things like that. Yeah.
Of course you did.
I mean, so we're on the same page. Jen's in the Hall of Fame for tennis, but I am the better tennis player.
I'm sure there's the debate ongoing. Do you find time to just play, the two of you? Do you get to do
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah.
We got to get better about it. So
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, yeah, you don't have busy lives at all, right? I mean, come on. So we have a couple more questions for you. So we have somebody who is following your Instagram page and really wants to know about your piggy and your pig's name, right? So who named the pig?
want me to talk so
Uh-huh.
Hagrid is the name of the pig. So I'll let you guys in on a secret. All the animal names are from Harry Potter.
Potter.
If you can
Mhm.
figure it out, bonus points. But Ben and I are big Harry Potter fans, so all of them are connected. So
I have to tell you, the pig comes up a lot, even in this short conversation that we've had so much. So that pig has a lot of personality, is what it sounds like.
he does.
Yes, he's one of the only no-touch animals that we have on the farm. And so he's
Interesting.
kind of more related to like a boar or like a hippo or something like that. I mean, he's very like he might not he might look just fine, but he might not like something about you and lunge at you and bite you. Like you just never really know. Jen and I feel very comfortable with him. Me probably more so than Jen. But you know, like my mom will not. She has a pig stick whenever she comes up, and so whenever she walks in with the animal, she has her little walking stick that she carries so that he can't get too close to her and stuff like that. Which
How
is
much-
not to say all pigs are like that, you know.
He had a rough past. I mean, he was basically living in a bedroom for 3 years in an apartment in Massachusetts by himself and was just fed like cat food and never saw the outside. So he got no socialization, so he doesn't know how to do anything.
Well, so I mean, just to kind of educate everybody here, there is no such thing as a teapot pig. And so a lot of people say, oh, we want a teapot pig, we want, you know, to raise it, da da da. A teapot pig is just a pig that is underfed for a very, very long time. And so you know, they don't grow small. I mean, potbelly pigs grow relatively large, and generally they are very you know, easygoing and docile, specifically if you raise them from a young age. He was not really worked with at a young age, and so he acts more like a wild pig than any other. And so he constantly tests you, extremely smart, and what, you know, very, very clean, very clean. He's one of the easiest animals to take care of.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but he does constantly kind of test his hierarchy with you. And so as long as you're prepared to deal with that, then he's a great animal. If you're not, then, you know, there are challenges.
Give us a mental picture of how much he weighs, just so folks who are out there who maybe haven't met him.
He's actually not very big, but he's probably about 130, 140 pounds.
Big enough.
Solid little chunk.
A little battering ram.
Yeah.
He's a little battering ram.
Yeah. He's very strong. But he's come around. Like he's really good with Ben and I. We give him belly rubs. He loves that. He's starting to let the volunteers give him belly rubs with the special scratcher that we have. So he started to chill out a little bit and let the volunteers do that, which is wonderful. So he's come a long way.
It's amazing. All right, so what are the other names? I have to ask. So we have Harry Potters out there. So share with us some of the other names.
So there's Big D. She is a mini donkey who is like the runner of the barnyard, and her name is Dolores. for Dolores Umbridge,
Mhm.
she wants to be in the Harry Potter film. We won't get into that. And then her sister, so to speak, is Little D. I call her Petunia, but it's Little D.
Because they all have nicknames, of course.
Yeah. Al, we got him right after we got Hagrid, and he was another mini horse, and he had a little like abscess on his eye. Doesn't affect his vision and doesn't actually hurt him at all, but because he has that little abscess, we thought Alastor, which is Mad Eye Moody, would be a really appropriate name for him. And then Queen Bee, her name is Queen Bee, but goes for Bellatrix because she's, I don't know, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
just-
Yeah.
it's a little crazy.
And then Molly is our Scottish Highlander, and she's just a sweetheart. And then Marge, the yak, was Harry's. When we first got her, it was supposed to be a very large animal compared to all the other animals we had. Now she's actually she's the smallest cow in the herd. But large Marge was our idea for that. And then Maxime, because she's the biggest cow that we have, because she's 2,000 pounds, and Maxime is Hagrid's girlfriend, so to speak. She's the other giant. And so, yeah.
That is amazing. We have another question that popped up. So we talked a little bit about the vision for slow growth, but if you had a choice for the next animals that you would have in, how would you want to expand it?
I would say it again.
The next type.
Next type of animal.
Oh, sheep.
Oh, look at that. That was a
I was gonna
fast
say
answer.
smaller, like,
The plan.
well, no, rabbits would be the next one. We actually have a whole plan for rabbits and everything like that with our current situation that we have. Sheep, for me, I think that would just be an interesting, because then we can have sheep, like shearing, and we can have wool demonstrations. We can have, certain other things that would provide educational experiences for people.
Yep.
But that would be probably years down the road once we
Okay.
get more land cleared.
When you went to the beautiful picture that you took, Ben, behind you is from Ireland. When you went to Ireland, did you have a particular, I mean, you said sheep like that as soon as I asked it. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is a guy who wants sheep. Do you have a particular breed?
Not really. I mean, we haven't even really started doing research on that. We're going to focus on probably the like this year is going to be just efficiency. We're going to upgrade our road system. We're going to upgrade one of our donkeys has asthma, which
Oh,
yeah, a lot of people don't know that donkeys and other animals can get asthma. And so we have a dirt floor barn, and so we want to upgrade to all mats so that, I mean, she's still going to do dust baths and things like that, but it will drastically decrease her asthma, hopefully, if we get mats in the barn. And so this year will be all that type of stuff. And then hopefully, if we get enough funds, then we can start to focus on rabbits and things. And then as we go forward, then we'll start to do research on different.
on what kind of sheep, right?
Yeah.
And it's whichever sheep needs your home, right? You just mentioned wool, so I think that's really exciting. So I think that
Ben's disappointed because we just did get 2 calls last week about
I know.
lots of sheep. Like,
oh no.
of that. So
No,
Ben's
I
very
know.
upset about that.
Yeah.
You probably remember from Nick Bear was one of your professors in environmental. I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask you to differentiate. Were you environmental studies or environmental science? It was studies.
Environmental studies.
Environmental studies. So you probably know Nick. Nick Bear is midst lambing right now at his house. So he's got these, and he just finished sugaring, right? So he's got these bags under his eyes, and he's just like walking through the hallways without sleep because every night he's out there, there's another baby. So it is very exciting. And as you can tell, I probably love sheep as much as you do. So we have some more questions. Oh, yeah, this is a great one. So donkeys are typically known to keep their eyes out for predators. Do you notice that they're particularly adept at that?
Donkeys, did you say?
Yeah, donkeys. Mhm.
Oh, yes. So Big D, Dolores, we've actually had to warn neighbors and things like that she would potentially, we've never seen her interact bad with dogs, but there's a potential that she definitely would kill a dog or something like that. All of our fences are electrified and things, so we to try to kind of cut that off. But she is definitely a like the herd master of everybody. We
We
had
have one story about a porcupine that was walking by the fence, and Hagrid the pig was down by there. And now the donkeys hate the pig. They really do. They dislike him. They just tolerate him. And the pig was out by the porcupine, and Big D actually ran down there and directed him back to the barn, specifically just to save him from the porcupine, which was amazing because you know, it was her instinct that kicked in, even though she doesn't like Hagrid.
well, from our view, we just saw her run from the top of the barn to like run and chase after the pig, and we were like, "Come on, man! He's just like, what's going on?" And then we saw the porcupine like 2 seconds later running up, and we were like, "Oh, look at that! You were literally just making sure he didn't get." We were like, "That's fantastic."
That's amazing. Wow, that's incredible. Oh, and look, see, everybody, this is fun. Llamas. People want to know, are llamas coming to you? Or do you have an interest in?
So I mean, that's kind of how I got introduced to farming. Was my parents, when my grandparents had a llama farm, and so I'm actually much more familiar with them. But we have a really, really, really good alpaca farm right down the road, right in Elkins, and so there's really no need for us to, you know, in terms of education and things, we would much rather support them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's wonderful. May I ask you a few questions that folks sent into us about Colby-Sawyer in particular? And I think one of the questions is it's a broad and really good question, and we'd love your input on how you feel about your education from Colby-Sawyer. So tell us a little bit about that.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, love it. In retrospect, I probably should have waited a year before going to Colby-Sawyer. I was a little bit immature going into Colby-Sawyer. You know, because it was my first time away from home, and I was like, "Oh, I can do anything I want," you know, kind of thing. I feel like that might have, if I had a year of like working experience before I went there, I thought that might have, you know, I might have been a little bit better student. But in terms of what I actually gained from Colby-Sawyer, I love it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Jen, how do you feel about your education at CSC?
Yeah, I think it really prepared me well for graduate school. As I said, I went back twice. So I went back to get my master's and became an adult geriatric nurse practitioner. And I went to Duke University, and I felt like Colby-Sawyer allowed me to actually like get in there. It's like one of the top nursing schools in the nation. So I feel like my education prepared me pretty well to do that. In terms of like writing and understanding research and things like that. So I felt really prepared, you know, leaving here.
It's fantastic. It's amazing. And I do want to ask, this is for me because maybe one or two of my students are logged on right now listening to this, and they're first year students. They're in their anatomy and physiology class and their first nursing classes. Do you have any advice for them?
There's just so much,
I
but
know, I know. I think nursing in
I can
particular,
see.
you know, for first years, you know, being in anatomy and physiology for a full year and then moving into microbiology and starting your clinicals, that's pretty intense, right?
So, I mean, something that I thought she was always very good at was time management.
Yes.
She wouldn't just, you know, oh, the day before a test, I'm going to study all my book. She took time out of her day, and she scheduled her day very accordingly so that she would always be able to study a little bit and didn't have to cram, didn't have to, you know, do anything like that before tests and things. And she was also, you know, she was in the Hall of Fame for tennis. And so she was constantly doing sports and school and succeeding in both for that reason.
That is
Ben
amazing.
saw me studying a lot and he wasn't partaking. So
It is taking a slightly different avenue when he was at CSC.
Yep.
Is that what you mean? Maybe just a little
Hey,
bit.
there's a bus.
Yeah. That's so funny. Well, and I echo this. We have a comment that says you both should be very, very proud of your accomplishments. I mean, this is very exciting what you're both working on. And just hearing about your histories and what you've done, your connections to the college, the connections that you still maintain, we are very lucky to have you. So we really appreciate that. And I have another comment here that says, thank you for sharing your story and your animal family. I'm in love with the yak. So there's somebody who loves the yak in particular. So
Yeah, Marge is a crowd favorite, I think. I think people fall in love with our social media. Sometimes we tell their stories, we try to tell good stories. And Marge certainly is a favorite for sure.
Well, and she's an interesting animal. You know, it's an animal that you don't see very often. I mean, there aren't very many left in the wild or anything, although there is a decently large domestic population in Maine.
really?
Yep, you can use them for a lot of different things. You can use them for wool, you can use them for milk, you can use them for
Right.
packing, you can use them for a whole bunch of different stuff, and they only eat about a third of what actual cows would eat, and so they're actually a very efficient animal.
Interesting. That's amazing. You know what? We've talked a lot about farm animals, but am I right that you might have some small furries at home too? Do you have some dogs? Is that right? Yes. Tell us a little bit about them.
3 dogs.
Yeah, 3
Yeah,
dogs.
they're all rescues. They're fantastic. You know, it's pretty simple. I mean, 2 of which have had a very bad past. Took a real long time to kind of get them. I mean, Jenny, our oldest, she's 15. Yeah, and it took her about 2.5 years to even get used to me. She fell in love with Jen first thing, but she ran away from home. We think she was meant to be a hunting dog, and then was very gun shy. I used to skeet shoot, and I really enjoyed that. But at one point, I had brought out my shotgun to go skeet shooting, and before I did anything, she knew exactly what the gun was and did not, cowered and ran away. And so, I've kind of given that up because it doesn't really make sense. And so, yeah.
They were like our first official rescues, of course, that I think helped us get down that rescue path that opened us up to considering our first rescue, which then just, took off from there after we saw all of them transform.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, you're providing an amazing home to an incredible population of animals. I, for one, am excited to see where this takes you next. So I'm all for rabbits. I think that's great. Actually, I do know that a lot of the shelters in the area, and I'm differentiating shelter from sanctuary, but the shelters in the area are overrun with rabbits right now. They really are, especially sadly around Easter, right? So it's a little heartbreaking. So people forget that guinea pigs, rabbits, chinchillas are really struggling in shelters to find homes.
Yeah, there's even been some just abandoned around here. We had one local person find one on a hiking trail, like left in one of those laundry containers out in the woods. Like people will just abandon animals, even here. So
yes, agreed. Well, thank you. And I want to be cautious and make sure, Tracy, that there's time for the audience to ask additional questions. If there are any others, so just to make sure that we don't run out of time, should I hand it over to you for a minute?
Yeah,
I'm happy to ask
absolutely.
more. We could keep going and going, but I want to make sure that
you touched on many of the questions. There was one early one, and I think you both touched on this a little bit, but this was one of the first questions that came in. It came in directly to me. But it's just thinking about your trajectories and the majors you were at CSC for, and how you've kind of grown outside those majors. And so how do you think your education at Colby-Sawyer best prepared you to succeed in this new path you've taken? So, from what your major was to your early career to being a nurse and I am teaching, Jen, and to now farming. Like, how do you credit your Colby-Sawyer education for getting you to where you are today?
Well, I think my Colby-Sawyer education really showed me to think outside the box. Like I had we have the liberal ed component, which wasn't just focused on nursing, but, I got to do like some creative writing, and I do a lot of that with the sanctuary work, with managing the social media. And then of course, just nursing itself, like being a nurse, like you're a caregiver, right? And I learned, obviously I know a lot of medical things, which then translates to how I can care for the animals. And I've also spent a lot of my career in hospice and palliative care, doing, focusing on quality of life of people, and that easily translates to the sanctuary of quality of life for animals. So that's
Great.
I know how I got here.
And Jen, I have to read this comment. One of your former professors, Susan Reeves, is on with us. And I don't know if you saw the comment, but I'm going to read it. She says, "I've known Jen since she arrived at Colby-Sawyer. She was an amazing student and athlete. I've watched her career trajectory with great joy, and I'm so glad she has found this wonderful balance and partner in her life." So thanks for that comment, Susan.
Oh, Susan, it's been a long time, Susan. Hi. And that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, this is great. I think most folks, if you have another question, please kind of let us know. But I think we've gotten to all of the questions that were here, and we are just about running out of time. So I just want to thank all of you who took some time this evening to join us and to learn more about Jen and Ben and Bark and Bray. I want to thank Iris for taking time out of your schedule to serve as our moderator, but most importantly, thank you, Jen and Ben. It's been really fascinating to hear about, how your careers have taken you on this path, and to learn more about your passion and about life on the farm today. So I hope we'll learn more, and hopefully we can get some Colby-Sawyer students interning at your farm. And you've both maintained a really wonderful connection with the college, and I hope we'll find more ways to keep that going. So we hope to see all of you again soon for future speaker series events and other programs that we're hosting. Be certain to watch your email inbox for event invitations and college announcements. We thank all of you for staying connected with Colby-Sawyer. So until next time, take care and enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you, Jen and Ben. It was so nice to talk to you. So
Yes,
nice.
thank
to
you
talk
so
to you.
much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
You too.